For this week's bonus episode, I'm going to be sharing a couple of stories from a thread on Reddit called "What is the saddest MLM horror story you've ever heard?" These are excerpts from real people who have either experienced MLMs or have had people in their life join an MLM. So I'm just going to be reading some of these stories and we can be heartbroken together. The top comment says, "My mom lost her house to MLM debt, and after multiple interventions, finally getting her to meet with the counselor said, 'You're choosing between your children and your juice company.' She stood up and said, 'Yes, I am,' and walked out." This person just lost their mother. One says, "My mom is very lonely and has never had friends her own age, but a lot of her small-time nurse work acquaintances have all been in MLMs through the years, and they act like her friend to invite her to join these parties. She always felt pressured to buy the stuff that we didn't need, and unfortunately, she claimed that she liked the Mary Kay makeup and joined because her upline basically told her that she could get makeup for herself at cost. That's all she really wanted to do. I have no idea how much she sunk into it, but my mom barely wore eyeshadow, mascara, and blush each day, and suddenly had this massive inventory of unwearable colors. As far as I know, she never sold a single item to anyone, and had this massive container of makeup that just sat in the closet until it expired. Of course, her upline wasn't going to be her actual friend and ditched her as soon as it was clear that my mom had no one to sell it to. My dad was so angry at how much she spent, and I was so embarrassed for her. My parents were in Amway before I was born. I think they spent about 7 years in. Both worked a full-time job, a part-time one, and sunk so much money into Amway that they couldn't afford food. Because they didn't make too much money, they didn't qualify for any sort of assistance, and no family member was willing to give them money for food since it would just be funneled into Amway. So they just didn't eat so that they could keep up with the conferences. My mom developed amenorrhea due to malnutrition. Oh my gosh. And didn't know she was pregnant with me until well into the second trimester, almost into the third trimester, because she was used to not having periods for months on end. One of the prescription meds she was on was known to cause severe birth defects, and the ultrasounds had issues with determining if I had them. So they had to have a pediatric reconstructive surgeon in the room when I was born because there was a good chance I had jaw deformity so severe that I would have been unable to eat. This is terrifying. Not really a horror story, but a sad one. When I was younger, I did a lot of nail art. I loved it, and I was pretty talented for being 10 to 11. I posted some nails to my Facebook. Yeah, I was young, but whatever, haha. Of course, they had a bit of a mess on the side, and they weren't perfect. I was 11. A Jamberry Hun. Hun is another very common word used by MLM recruiters. Literally commented they could be so much better and cleaner with nail stickers and plugged her business. I remember not posting my nails again. Like, how sad do you have to be to prey on a young girl trying to show off her nails? Here's another one. My best friend got invited to one of those little coffee meetups where it ended up just being a woman pushing you hard to join an MLM. It was from Mary Kay, and my friend maybe wore a very basic level of makeup on most days. It was some package that cost $500. My friend was pressured so hard by this woman that she gave in and put the $500 on a credit card. She wasn't even roped in. She didn't want to sell it at all, but she's a meek girl who didn't like upsetting people. I was sitting at her apartment with her that night, and she was just crying and crying. We were in our early 20s, just starting life after college, and $500 was a huge amount of cash. She did one party and was so nervous and scared. We bought a bunch from her because we felt so bad. Nothing any of us needed at all. Luckily, she quit after one party. Another one says, I was a large pin leader in Amway. I'm guessing that's like one of their statuses. We used to promote things at our conferences called night owls. These are get-togethers for people who qualify through usually sales, recruitment, recruitings. The one we put on was called Diamond After the Night, where we were going to give you the secret to building a business. But the requirement to get into the said night owl was to have $7,500 in product either sold through your team or in your personal circle. Long story short, one of my downlines decided to buy $6,600 worth of product by himself to get into the night owl. I told him not to do it, but he did it anyways. The worst part is that the diamond got on stage and gave a quick story about overcoming adversity. 15 minutes later, they left the stage because he had a headache. I got to watch my downline cry himself to sleep as he realized that he spent his entire life savings on a scam. He did quit a few months later, luckily. I had a friend in grad school 30 years ago who was sort of fragile, introverted person, but a really good soul. We all know these people. They got into new skin, and it was like watching them turn into a shell of their former self over the course of just a few months. Everyone started avoiding them. They went broke and lost their place, dropped out of school, and eventually just disappeared. I was very fond of this person, but I eventually couldn't help them anymore, and I couldn't get them to break free of their clearly addicted belief that this MLM was going to change their life somehow. I knew nothing about MLMs back then, and I've hated them ever since. Okay, last story. My ex-wife spent $70,000 on LuLaRoe between our savings and her parents' retirement. It led to foreclosure on my already stretched rental and our divorce. I now give her 50% of my take-home income, care for the kids 50% plus of the time, and cover all extra costs between homes, clothing, extracurricular activities, help her with when she's down. And she's still doing random MLMs and not working. Full benefits of my lifetime of hard work, and my kids will never have everything they possibly can have as a result. Not the saddest by far, but the saddest to me. Oh my gosh, I think this is the saddest one, and I'm going to end it here, but it says, my friend's parents were big into Amway. They stored a lot of cleaning supplies and such in the basement. When a fire started there, these products helped the house go up in flames very quickly. My friend and another classmate died in the fire. This is all heartbreaking in so many different ways, and you can see families and people whose lives have completely been destroyed. And it's not just the people who are in the MLMs, it's all of the people around them who get impacted by this. I really wanted to just share some stories of people who have been through this because I haven't, and I wanted to share how scary and real getting trapped in one of these predatory companies can be for the most vulnerable of society. I will see you next week for another episode.